Happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone. GuardianE here with another live reaction and first impression video for Fire Emblem Heroes. Today we should be getting the reveal of the next set of new heroes to be entered into the regular summon pool, with an all-new focus banner coming up in just a few short days. So, could we see the return of a Fallen banner, or maybe a new Three Houses banner? I actually don't know. I really feel like it could be anything. I'm just going to guess Three Houses because that seems like an easy answer, but we'll get that reveal in just a minute. So let's go ahead and watch it and react to it for the first time, and then we will watch it again just to analyze the banner, the characters, and the skills that are available. So let's get started. Alright, so let's begin. As usual, I am not looking at my screen, so I can watch them pop up one at a time in surprise. So let's press play. Okay. Looking up right about now. Oh my god. That's terrifying. Jeez. He looked like a feral rat. Oh my god. Okay, so it looks like it is going to be a Fallen banner. At least it seems that way. Let me, the resolution's really bad. I'm gonna... Sorry about that. I had to fix the resolution. It was, pretty low quality. Jeez, so we're getting, Fallen male Corrin this time. There's also going to be the Demon King. Really. So Lyon's dark version definitely has a maniacal look going on. Oh, pitting him against Alm. Blood Tome, bonus doubler. It's interesting that they see him, they show him getting attacked, I guess, on the map. Oh my god, that laugh. Oh, that animation! Jeez. Oh no! Heart Usurped. Oh, Julia, no. Infantry Red Tome user, Dark Scripture. She also has Light and Dark. Okay.
Let the darkness come.
Oh, man. Okay, I mean, that's just Naga, but purple. So that's... Oh, okay. Alright. Zeal Unleashed. We're getting Evil Ike. Evil Ike. Dark Ike. Chaos Ragna. Mayhem Ether. Darting Breath. Repel 3. Oh, jeez. So I was way off. We are getting a, oh my goodness. Greg Chun, please. So we are getting a Fallen banner, and look at this art, and then Peony looking very concerned, as she should. Alright, anything to note here? No surprises as far as the map is concerned. Just one of the Dark Fairies back there, so don't really have anything as far as that is concerned, as far as a free unit. So new heroes starting on the 8th of May. Not even color distribution. We actually have 2 reds, a green, and a blue. So no colorless this time around. New heroes will be available in future summon sessions. So they'll be dropped into the regular pool. More info, free to start. So no demotes. That much is up front, or at least no 4-star focus this time around. They are all going to be 5-star characters. And they are all terrifying. They're very, very scary. Despite this not being a Halloween banner, they are pretty terrifying looking. I mean, so, you know, the Fallen banner has been a thing. It's been a reoccurring event. I feel like this is I feel like they've gone really dark here, at least in the art department. Definitely looks interesting. A lot of fan favorite characters here for sure. Ike, easily one of the most popular characters in the franchise, obviously. Just having a dark version of him is super cool. As much as it is like kind of like the 12-year-old fantasy when you're sitting in class and scribbling in your notebook, daydreaming, and having like these edgy drawings of like dark versions of your fan favorite characters. As much as it is akin to that, it's undeniably awesome. So I mean, these characters are really cool looking, I have to say. There's a little bit of trailer left. I don't think there's anything left to reveal, but I figured we just kind of let this rock for a little bit just to make sure that I'm not missing something. Okay, right. The outro teaser where after the 40th summon event. So obviously this is a new hero banner just to kind of reinforce the whole kind of sparking or mileage system depending on the vernacular that you use with what gacha you use. Fire Emblem Heroes doesn't really have one. But it essentially means that after 40 summons, including your free summon on the banner, so you can pick any one of them and then get them guaranteed, which is obviously very, very awesome. So let's go ahead and rewind, take another look at the scary art, as well as the skills that all of them have. There are no pre-demotes or 4-star focuses here, so I'm expecting to have some pretty full kits overall. Alright, here we go. So Corrin here looks like super feral. Like, he looks terrifying. Bloodhound Beast. Yeah, Cam Clark. Blue Dragon, Blue Infantry Dragon. Let's pause here. So, Brutal Breath is the 16 Might Dragon weapon naturally. Grants speed +3. That's always good. Grants plus X to all stats during combat. Calculates X based on the number of allies within 2 spaces of unit. 0 grants +5. Okay, so he's, obviously solo-based. That makes sense. If the number of allies within 2 spaces is less than or equal to 1, inflicts special cooldown charge -1 on foe per attack during combat. So it has a guard effect as long as you have close to the max stat increase on the weapon itself. Only highest value applied, does not stack. If and then adaptive damage as dragon weapons tend to have. So breaking it down, I mean that's relatively simple. Speed +3, very solid. Gets additional stat boosts to all of his stats depending on how many units are not near him. So with 0 allies near him, he gets +5 to all stats. Definitely not too shabby at all, and gets the guard effect as well and adaptive damage. Solid weapon, definitely solid. The main issue being that, at its worst, if he's around 3 of his allies, or within 2 spaces of 3 of his allies. And 2 spaces it's significant. It's not adjacent, it's 2 spaces. And so it's a little bit harder to maneuver unless he's kind of off on his own and overextends, which you can certainly plan for. But it's more stringent of a condition, I guess. But if he has 3 of his allies near him within 2 spaces, he gets 0 boosts. So it is a dramatic cutoff. He doesn't get at least some boosts. He gets no boosts. Gets +5 to all stats if he has 0 allies near him. Pretty good. A Glimmer for the special. Okay, so attack speed solo 4. If unit is not adjacent to an ally, grants attack speed +7 during combat. So the tier 4 of the solo skills +7 to both stats. Seems fine, I guess. I don't know if we were really clamoring for a tier 4 version of the solo skills. I mean, to be fair, that's the only way that they can actually kind of empower or advance units that are meant to be solo tanks or solo units out there, like a homing missile, is by just giving them a tier upgrade, because you can't rely on teamwork, you can't rely on team buffs, you can't rely on team synergy or anything like that. So if a unit really is going to be all by their lonesome out there, the only way to really kind of boost them in the overall meta is to just introduce another tier of their skills. Null follow-up 3 neutralizes effective guaranteed follow-up attacks and effects that prevent units' follow-up attacks during combat. That's fine. Rouse speed defense 3. At start of turn, if unit is not adjacent to an ally, grants speed defense +6 to unit for 1 turn. So that is obviously an activated buff. Those buffs that at the start of the turn your numbers blue. So it's definitely a decent kit. Doesn't blow me away or anything, but it's definitely solid. Getting attack speed solo 4. If you don't like Corrin, I mean, you could always fodder that off to another unit that relies on that, especially like a Cavalry Gale Force on Ether Raid Defense or something like that. Could absolutely make use of that, but yeah, I think he's fair, solid. Let's keep going. Nothing like crazy to write home about, I guess, but he's got some good stuff on him. So yeah, got the deer dragon. All right, so yeah, no, he looks terrifying. Jeez, that Corrin, man. Yeah, and we've seen that effect before. Everything else, the actual dragon and the animation. So here's Lyon. He is going to be an infantry green tome user, and yeah, definitely a far cry from the gentle Lyon that we've come to know and love in Heroes, of course. In his various iterations, or rather, well, like the duo version, right, with Ephraim, and then the other proper version. But yeah, did a great job of making him look, kind of sadistic here. I definitely get that vibe from him for sure. And he looks like he's going to kill me. So I'm just going to keep going along here and try not to make eye contact. All right. And they do have Alm attack into him. I'm assuming they showed that specifically because of something in his skill. So let's take a look here. He's got his Blood Tome, 14 Might Tome, grants attack +3. If foe uses bow, dagger, magic, or staff, reduces damage from area of effect specials by 80%, excluding rock or area of effect. So all ranged enemies. And reduces damage from foes' attacks by 50%. Huh. And if foe is also colorless, grants weapon triangle advantage to unit, and inflicts weapon triangle disadvantage on foe. Attack +3, that's always solid. If foe uses a ranged weapon, essentially, area of effect specials get an 80% damage reduction. And then the foe's attacks in general are just reduced flatly by 50%. And then it's a Raven Tome effect, so he's effective against colorless foes. So that's why they chose Alm here specifically, because he is a colorless archer, just to show how much damage gets reduced by the Blood Tome, I'm sure. But yeah, Raven Tomes, I've long thought that they've been pretty underrated, just because colorless has been getting so many contenders recently, and any boost to colorless is just by its nature a boost to Raven Tomes. So we've got Lyon here, who does have weapon triangle advantage against colorless tomes, and just has huge damage reduction against ranged foes. So he fulfills a specific niche of being a ranged tank, which is going to work exceedingly well. He's a green tome user. He's going to have AoE damage reduction as well as regular attack damage reduction without conditions, really. Just if they're ranged. If they attack into him, he'll reduce their damage. And he has a Raven Tome effect. And green is one of the better colors to have a Raven Tome for. So, that being said, he's meant to counter a lot of the legendary archers that we've gotten recently. He's meant to counter, stuff like Reinhardt, obviously. He's meant to counter Ophelia, definitely. So, very, very interesting. We'll talk about that more a little bit later. So, he's got Soul for the special, restores 50% of HP of damage dealt. Bonus Doubler 3 for the A slot, grants bonus to all stats during combat equal to the current bonus on each unit stats. Essentially, more or less, a Blade Tome boost effect. Null C Disrupt 3 neutralizes effects that prevents units' counterattacks during combat. I see. That's particularly important against staff users, of course. His Blood Tome is intended to counter staff users in a lot of ways, gives him color advantage, as well as obviously reduces damage from staves. So Null C Disrupt is a natural choice, lets him counterattack those tricky little staves out there. Rouse attack res 3 at start of turn if unit is not adjacent to an ally, grants attack res +6 to unit for 1 turn. So they're kind of like just rounding out the rest of the Rouse skills, basically. That's definitely solid. Makes a lot of sense too, because he is obviously going to be a tanky unit against range, so he's going to want that res, and that attack is definitely going to help him secure the kills. I'm curious as to what his stat line is going to be. For his seal, he may want quick riposte if he's not a particularly speedy unit, just to make sure that he does guarantee the double on enemy phase, and he is going to seemingly be primarily enemy phasing. That Blood Tome, I think it's very solid. Like I said, Raven Tomes are strong. He's a green or Grand Raven user, essentially, with all of these added effects and a lot more tankiness. I'm curious what his stat line is going to be, but I can tell you firsthand, using Spring Camilla as my Ground Raven user, I can tell you right now that everybody thinks that she's, a Gen 1 seasonal unit, so she's basically worthless, can't use her, not viable. The reality is that she absolutely dominates the Aether offense. If any of the enemy forces are comprised a lot of colorless staff users, legendary Azura, any blue users at all, any blue tome users or anything like that, honestly, Spring Camilla just kind of dominates that map. So green is a very good color to have a Raven Tome on, and I think that Lyon fulfills a lot of really strong niches. It can be manipulated a lot here. I think you can do a lot of alternate things with his kit, depending on your needs for your team. So, very interesting. I like this. I like having a bunch of things on a weapon that aren't necessarily, like, absurdly overpowered. Maybe counters very specific things, because that kind of opens the door to other people not relying on a single strategy. So let's keep going here. So yeah, he's going to eat this Lunar Flash, and it's going to be reduced significantly. And these get... Oh my god, that laugh. And then he's going to counter with this... That animation's so cool. Alright, so here is Julia, Heart Usurped.
There is no way to stop the darkness.
Oh, breaks my heart. So we've got a Red Tome Infantry user. Let's pause here. Dark Scripture is a 14 might tome, grants attack +3. If unit is not adjacent to an ally. Okay, so it's one of these. It's geared towards soloing. Inflicts attack res -6 on foe during combat. So an in-combat debuff. I'm always a big fan of those. If foe does not have effective against dragons, unit makes a guaranteed follow-up attack. That's pretty fascinating. I don't think we've seen a condition like that before. Yeah, I really don't think so. That's pretty interesting. Because she's not a dragon, obviously, and so obviously there are lore reasons certainly why this applies. But I'm just saying, since she's not a dragon, it just kind of isolates a certain subset of targets where she can't make a guaranteed follow-up attack. That doesn't mean that she can't outspeed them. So I don't know what her speed is actually going to be, but it's interesting. So that does mean that for the majority of the cast, she's just going to have a guaranteed follow-up attack. And that's the end of it. Doesn't matter how you build them, doesn't matter what you do with them. She's just going to have a guaranteed follow-up attack against those units. Obviously, the change-up for that is going to be characters like Naga, who has an ability to actually imbue the effective against dragons on allies. So that's a little bit of an interesting back and forth I can see. But yeah, so she's going to be solo-based, which... I think definitely works for certain archetypes. I'm personally not a huge fan of it, but I know that some people out there are, and it certainly has the potential to be very strong. She has Iceberg for the special, boosts damage by 50% of units res, attack res solo 4, if unit is not adjacent to an ally, grants attack res +7 during combat. Kind of beat this horse to death a little bit when talking about attack speed solo 4, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Seems like just the next step in the solo skills, and that's kind of what they feel like they need to do for these solo-oriented characters. Light and Dark for the B slot, inflicts -2 to all stats on foe, neutralizes foes' bonuses from Fortify and Rally, and disables foes' skills that calculate the adaptive damage. So we've seen Light and Dark before. This isn't new. But of course, it continues to bear discussion nevertheless. It is a core part of Julia. So, inflicts -2 to all stats, in combat debuff on foe. That's solid. I mean, so you get the -6 on attack and res from Dark Scripture, and then you get -2 in addition to that. So -8 on attack and res, -2 on defense and speed. Neutralizes foes' bonuses, so all of the activated buffs get nullified inherently by Light and Dark, and that is a very strong effect. Like, that is an extremely strong effect. I think anytime you're neutralizing the foe's bonuses, like those activated buffs, or you're ignoring panic, like stuff like that, anything that either grants you the ability to use Fortify or Rally, or nullifies the ability to use Fortify and Rally buffs, is a strong combat effect, I think. And disables effective damage. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. It's weird because it positions her to be kind of like a dragon killer, but she doesn't have a dragon effective weapon, of course. And then Panic Smoke 3 inflicts panic on target and foes within 2 spaces of target after combat. That's fine. She's pretty scary. I can see why she would incite a panic among the battlefield. So yeah, I think her tone is pretty decent. I don't, again, not mind-blowing or anything, which I'm totally okay with. I think it's powerful. You can use it for specific purposes. I also think that the guaranteeing of a follow-up attack against certain enemies it's non-conditional. It's pretty simple, straightforward, and I think that's perfectly fine. And Light and Dark, together with Dark Scripture, I think it's a great combination. I think she's just solid. Just solid kid overall. Let's keep going. Take a look at her art. Oh man, she's definitely has that look. I love the purple around her. I love the wisps. And she definitely has kind of a look of crazy there. Alrighty. And then finally, Zeal Unleashed. Doesn't even say anything during this sequence. Oh yeah, he is definitely oozing some evil here. He's got that hand that is glowing with some sort of forbidden force, I'm sure. Look at his biceps. Jeez. It's got some smooth muscle going on. And yeah, he's wielding that Ragna. Well, not his traditional Ragna, I guess. It's cursed. But yeah, he looks like he's coming right for you, and that's the effect that they wanted to go for, and they succeeded. So let's keep going. All right. Chaos Ragna is a 16 might sword. Unit can counterattack regardless of... Okay, so it has built-in distant counter, for one thing. Grants bonus to attack to all stats during combat equal to current penalty on each of unit's stats times 2. Example, if unit has -7 attack to a penalty to attack, grants attack plus 14 for a net bonus of attack plus 7. Calculates each stat bonus independently. Really? That's interesting. So rather than just nullifying... rather than just straight up nullifying Panic, what it's going to do is that when you have Panic on Ike, he's basically just going to get it nullified by this effect itself, which is going to just multiply it times 2. So it'll nullify it and then stack it. Calculates each stat bonus independently. So what that essentially means is that you can't debuff his stats. You can debuff them in combat, but outside of combat, if you debuff his stats, he just gets stronger. Which is actually, like, if you think about it, that sounds pretty cool. Like, if you debuff me, you'll only make me stronger. So, it sounds like that's what they're going for here, and that's obviously what it's going to do. It's even more interesting if you think about it in the context of sometimes when you get both a plus and a minus buff and debuff to a stat. So let's say for attack you had +7, but for your attack you also had -7. So it wasn't panicked. You just had a -7 debuff from, say, a chill attack, for example. What that ultimately means is that with Chaos Ragna, he would have +7 from whatever other buff he was getting, and then plus an additional 7 from the nullification of the debuff, and then the multiplication of that nullification. So he would get +14 to his attack, just raw. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, it's a powerful effect for sure. I mean, it's addition to the distant counter. And distant counter itself, built into the weapon, is always just a powerful thing. I mean, it has been. They've always been wary about adding anything to distant counter weapons. And this effect is pretty unique, I will say. It's a little bit akin to Adun, because Adun, again, also really favors getting debuffs on her, because it'll just, again, kind of, like, basically make her stronger. So it's kind of in line with that. So there's if he's not being debuffed, he just suffers no penalty. And if he is being debuffed, then he not only suffers no penalty, he gains an additional effect. So it's solid. I mean, it's Ragna, but better. Mayhem Ether is a 4 cooldown for Mayhem Ether. During combat, treats foes' defensive res as if reduced by 50%, restores HP to 50% of damage dealt. So yeah, Mayhem Ether is basically just Radiant Ether. It's the same thing, which is fine. Radiant Ether is strong. Darting Breath for the A slot. Again, the whole notion that Ike is the only unit that knows how to breathe. Well, other than Tiki, I guess. Anyway, if foe initiates combat, grants speed +4 during combat, and special cooldown charge +1 per attack. So I'm wondering what his speed stat is going to be then, especially since he has his next skill, which is Repel 3. If unit speed is greater than foe speed, reduces damage from attacks during combat and from area of effect specials, excluding Rocker Right, by percentage equal difference between stats times 4, max 40%. If unit initiates combat, foe is moved 1 space away after combat. So that leads me to believe that this is actually going to be a speedy Ike, which obviously is not usually his archetype. So that's pretty unique. Maybe the chaotic forces within him make him that much faster, but regardless, Darting Breath plus Repel 3 intended to be working in tandem with each other, and probably with his raw stat line, he's probably going to be rocking some pretty impressive speed. Attack speed 03 at start of turn. If unit is adjacent to an ally, grants attack speed +5 to unit for 1 turn. So again, this notion, this idea that he's kind of a speed-based character really kind of comes to fruition with his A, B, and C slot skills. So yeah, I think it's a strong kit, much like the rest of this banner. And again, nothing absolutely mind-blowing, I have a feeling that all of these units are just going to have really impressive stats. I mean, that's very possible. Them being kind of these dark versions of themselves. But, overall, I think they all have very powerful, fun, unique effects on them. And that alone is really kind of the driving factor here. And that's what it feels like. And Ike is no exception. Again, being able to completely nullify penalties is a big thing. But we're seeing a lot of in-combat debuffs recently. So it's not been as much about, the panics or everything else. Now, in stuff like Ether Raids and stuff like, Abyssal Maps, all that stuff, you're gonna get visible debuffs, so that's going to happen, and so Ike is just gonna excel there. So clearly that is just a strong thing. We're seeing those more and more often. It's hard to avoid them, quite frankly. They're everywhere. You're gonna get debuffed, and if Ike gets debuffed, he's again just gonna get that much stronger. And I am really curious as to what his speed stat is going to be, because Repel 3 is a really powerful effect. And then Darting Breath is also going to be very strong. In tandem with Ether, I mean, all those things put together, maybe you'll have lower defensive stats, but Repel 3 is going to end up, compensating for that. And that could be this speedy Ike still being tanky by the use of Repel 3. I don't know. We'll have to see. But it's interesting to think about for sure. Let's keep going. Take a look at the art. Attacking art for Dark Ike here. Oh man, my goodness me. Okay. So new story chapter, Steeped in Twilight. These very, very devilish looking characters and a very scared looking peony. So yeah, this is a fun banner. I know that Fallen Heroes in general, there are probably mixed feelings about them. Obviously, they're all alts, so they're not new heroes in the same way that you would think about new heroes. People have different feelings about alts being in the game in general. You have, I think, what is a healthy mix of old school and new school fan favorites. So I think that a lot of people are probably going to be happy with the selection. And honestly, none of them are over the moon absurdly powerful out of the gate. A lot of them have very, very powerful effects for specific purposes, and I think that is perfect. Like, that's the balance that they should be striking when they release these banners. I'm kind of honestly tired of every single time there being kind of this huge shift or counter to something that just came out in a new banner every single time. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not going to soapbox about it, but I'm just saying I think that this is a better approach to building characters, because again, they don't need much more. The fact is they have strong attributes built into them. They're fan favorite characters, so people are going to pull for them because they like them. Their art's great. It's a fun premise, so it's got all these things going for them. So I think that at the end of the day, evaluating the banner as a whole, if you're looking for strict meta, I don't really know if you should be pulling here. I don't really know if any of these are going to be, your next jewel in your barracks per se, for whatever you need. And honestly, I don't think they need to be. I don't think that's the point. But as far as their overall strength is concerned, honestly, I've actually got to say Lyon, I think, is probably one of the more interesting units on this banner, just because of what he does in his role. I think it's very, very useful that a lot of people seem to kind of overlook in their team composition. And he's going to be able to be a strict counter to a lot of the bigger threats in general, like on a lot of different maps, including but not limited to Ether Raids. So honestly, Lyon's looking pretty good. Julia and Corrin both are that niche of like a solo artist, which I'm not. Again, it's not really my playstyle. I like to have synergy with the different characters a little bit more. I know you can work certain compositions in to feed into the solo unit's strengths. I do recognize that completely, but it's just not how I play, generally speaking. And Ike seems... I mean, look, it's Ike. People are going to pull for him just because it's Ike. But I think that he does have some cool stuff. It is going to be fun to see a speedy Ike, and I really do want to see what his speed stat is going to be. And I do want to see just kind of how his kit works in practice. Like, I want to see it on the battlefield, see how it interacts with a variety of opposing forces that attack into him, and how tanky he really is going to be, and how much self-sustain he's going to have, when compared to somebody like Legendary Ike, right? You would think that he would be comparable, if not better. So those are my thoughts on the banner. I think that, personally, I probably will pull for at least one of these guys. I think one of them would be great to have. And the fact that you have that mileage slash sparking slash new pity system guarantees getting one if you pull 40 times, and I think I'm willing to do that. So yeah, I'll probably do a summon session for this. It's been a while. But let me know in the comments below if you are excited for this banner, and if you are, then who you're going to be pulling for. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to leave us a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more Fire Emblem Heroes content. We thank you all so much for watching and taking time out of your day to spend with us. We really, really do appreciate it. We hope you're staying safe and secure out there, and certainly wishing the best for you, your family, and your friends. And until next time, let's protect those skies.